Eccentric Friends, a Gary Numan podcast celebrating the tracks by a musical pioneer.
I remember vividly when I was about 12, I was on holiday with my family and we were watching Stars in Their Eyes. I don't know why we were watching Stars in Their Eyes on holiday, but at this point I was a young, massive Gary Numan fan. It was in the era pre-internet, I only had dribs and drabs of Gary content, and suddenly Matthew Kelly goes, he introduces the next singer and they revealed to be Gary Numan, and it was very, very exciting. And all these years I'd always remembered that singer and thinking just how great they were, and that's why I was so pleased that just a couple of years ago, I discovered that not only was Chris Fielding still performing, but he was now in a band, Tubeway Days, and I'm very excited to be talking to you today. So, I saw you in London last year actually, and you guys were just fantastic and a must see for all Gary Numan fans. So great,
yeah, they were just. It was a great adventure because I was the only Gary Numan that's ever been on that show, and obviously it was there. It was that was sort of before Pop Idol or any of those big Saturday entertainment. It was their flagship Saturday night entertainment program. So I think my show was something like 10 or 11 million viewing audience. You don't get that now. Those absolutely. Audiences have gone for single shows like that. But yeah, to get on as Gary Numan was, it was no surprise that I didn't win it, because obviously I think Gary Barlow, who did win mine, and Gary Barlow was like number one in the charts at the time, but it was a great experience. Loved it. And obviously I've still got the boiler suit now, which I'm still wearing. So
firstly, for people who don't know, I'm sure most, if not all people listening will know who you are, but just in case not, just give a general intro about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Chris Fielding. I've had a couple of little bits of my 15 minutes of fame from 1998, Stars in Their Eyes, and then I was on the last Pulp video that they made called Bad Cover Version, which was full of lookalikes and sound-alikes. It was a spoof of Band-Aid, called Bad Cover Version, and so that was a great day as well. That was in the top 30 for a couple of weeks, and because I was actually on the DVD single, and my photos on the back as well, and I was sing on it, then obviously, technically I was in the charts. So that was very exciting, but, and then I've been in a party band for 20 years now, and doing multiple costume changes, cheese-tastic stuff for women to dance around handbags. And then in May 2020, 2 months into lockdown, I got a message to join Tubeway Days. So my party band's still going, but I am now the lead singer of Tubeway Days, the Gary Numan tribute, and we're having good times. Yeah, it's really going well.
So, were you like a genuine Gary Numan fan? Like, is that how you got into it, to do that?
Yeah, I was 10 and the only kid dressed in black, regardless of the weather. And no matter how hot it was at school, I was the only kid in black. Although my head hadn't grown into my ears then. So it was more like, a wingnuts take on Gary Numan. But yeah, I lived and breathed it. So my brothers, I was too young to have even pocket money to go and buy the records myself. But being the youngest of four brothers, it was my middle brother, Mark, who came home with replicas. And that's it. Within a week, I'd snaffled that off him, and then sort of coerced his girlfriends to buying the next Gary Numan album. So sort of got replicas and Pleasure Principle for free. And I think Telecom was my 11th birthday present. Nice. So yeah, so always been a massive fan. But again, money was always a thing. I didn't go to Wembley. I was only 12. My dad, if it wasn't Lager or Aston Villa, it wasn't worth any money at all. So I didn't go to that either. And I finally, I nearly went to Warriors because my eldest brother promised me he'd get tickets. Didn't happen. Well, that's part of the course with Andy. But yeah, I finally got to see Gary Numan 1984 Birmingham Odeon Berserker tour. And it was fantastic. When the band took to the stage and the whole thing was glowing blue, it just looked fantastic. And of course, it was packed, so it just sounded and that's what I've been missing. Really, I've missed out all the great stuff. Shame really. But there you are.
Well, that's the thing. I'm jealous of that because I got into him, in the early 90s when I was young, and so I didn't actually see him live until about 2005, I think it was. It was
Right.
well, so I listened to those stories and you think, oh God, I wish I got to see those sort of gigs.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But what was it about him that you realised that not only do I love his music, but I reckon I could do a good impersonation of him?
Because all my life I've done impersonations since I was a little kid, toddler, impersonating relatives, people on the telly, film stars, and so it's just a thing I've always sort of had a knack for, accents and the like. So I enjoy nothing more than singing like the person. So I don't sing any song as Chris Fielding.
Yeah.
I can't help myself. So if I sing a Prince song, I have to sing it in the style of Prince, So I can't help it, and I get more enjoyment from that. I think Bowie said that. The nearest he got to his own voice was "Wild Is the Wind." Everything else is really a sort of a pastiche of something that he's done a different style just to suit the sound. So, but yeah, I think Gary Numan is a unique voice, and he's he cannot be compared to any other artist. So I think I do quite well with that, to get close to such a odd type of voice. Everything is odd about that voice compared to anyone else.
Yeah.
It really is. There's a slight fracture to it. It's nearly a yodel in points. It nearly breaks, but doesn't. It's sort of a strange technique, if you like, to get right. Plus, of course, I couldn't sing like "Here in My Car" with a Birmingham accent. So, you've got to also get that Southern Counties, Hammersmith, London, soft, thin sort of. It's not, it's not East End, but it's, it's not that strong. But it's certainly, you have to fit all of that in, and obviously it's just years and years of listening to the records over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I know not only do you sound just like Gary in those early years in particular, but when you're up on stage, you just look just like him, and it's all the mannerisms as well. How long did it take for you to sort of study him and his live shows and go, right, that's what he does on that song, that's what he does there?
I think the actual some of those movements for certain songs I've gone back to more recently to do, but generally most of that's just natural because I've watched so many videos. It's unbelievable, really, and I don't ever get bored of watching Gary Numan video cassettes and DVDs and the like. So I think all of the shapes, moves, the way he holds a microphone, I've copied it that many times, up until I was 13 in the mirror. so I almost don't have to think about it as such. My main thing is being 54 is remembering the bloody words. There's certain nights I seem to pick a song out that I have to forget the words.
Well, Gary forgets the words sometimes, so that's
it. I'll call it truly authentic.
But as I said, as someone who wasn't there to see the early days, but having listened to the album so many times, it's when I saw you guys play, it sounds just like those early albums and live shows, and it's incredible what all of you do on stage.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the thing. I'd watched Tubeway Days, and they had their previous singer Martin, and I watched and I listened, and because I vaguely remember when they were doing their first shows, and he was talking about how he was getting into character and that kind of thing. But I watched the live shows, and I thought, well, musically, they're absolutely bang on. Because I'm pretty, I'm pretty pedantic about, how close something is. And I just, I remember even thinking at the time, blimey, I'd love to front that. I'd love to front that. They just need my voice on that. That'd be great, But there you are. And then years later, couldn't believe it. Got a message from Paul and joined, and great bunch of lads, and they're all none of them in the band mess about. You know, if they need to learn a song, they don't start learning it at the next rehearsal. They put the hours in, you know, to get something right or to work on it. So and that's what I like about them. So they're as committed to it as I am, and it's showing dividends. I mean, we're definitely doing well with tickets, and you know, hopefully that'll continue next year. We've got slightly bigger plans, you know, ahead, and you know, we as word continues to spread, I hope that you know, we can start, you know, getting into theatres of the 400-500 mark, you know, and doing well with them, because we've had some cracking theatre shows so far, albeit smallish theatres. You know, we've had some, you know, they've been pretty full. Liverpool Capstone Theatre, great, really good. That was our first 79 show that we did from start to finish, and yeah, it was great. So we just hope that continues. You know, we're adding more to the stage for next year as well. Can't go into too much detail, but it's going to be more impressive. And that's what I love about it as well. You know, any of the fans have been in before, you know, they just want to, you know, get their money and go out. And but with this band, if we say, right, we need that and lighting, 20 of them, it's going to cost us X. They go, okay, it'll improve the show. So yeah, you know, they almost we don't have to have a big fight about whether we spend the money on that or not, because they can see the greater good is that we're going to have because you can't, I just don't think you can be Gary Numan, you know, a Gary Numan show without some form of proper formal presentation, because that's what it was about back in the day. So if you're going to cover, I think if we were doing the stuff he does now, it would be different. You know, you could get away with some moving spots and that kind of thing. But for those, there were formal, rigid structures, you know, that he designed. So, you know, we put money into that. So that's why we've got moving pyramids, and, you know, to replicate those times and take all the people in the 50s back to when they were 15, you know, or 14 or whatever, you know. And so it's a complete nostalgia trip. Yeah. And you know, for people that don't know, who are the other guys in the band, and what instruments they play in? Yeah, well, we have two twin brothers. Not identical, but Ian on the drums, and Ian Bourne. Neil Bourne's on bass, and then on synths, who joined the band a bit later on, but as you know, is basically the musical director is Paul Hurst. He's our Billy Curry, and then we got Johnny Fage on guitar. He's our thrash element, and then up until recently, he'd been in the band since the very start, was Anthony Barton. But it worked out because Anthony has a Swedish wife, and they moved to Sweden, and he just meant really practically and financially, it just wasn't it was never going to work really in that scenario, trying to fly back in, and the costs involved and all of that, and logistics. It would have been a nightmare for him and us, really difficult to rehearse, blah blah blah. So our new synth player that we appointed, he dropped in at the last minute for our Madam Market theatre in Norwich, and that's John Rose, and he's a chap who I was in a rock and roll band, 50s rock and roll band, about 2 or 3 years ago, something like that, 2 or 3 years ago, Rocket 51. And he's, strictly speaking, a guitarist and a pianist, but he has owned synthesizers in the past, and now he did so well really on our night, 28 numbers in just over 2 weeks. You know, with barely a ripple of a mistake. It was very good. So he's gone and got the gear, and we're ready to go now. So our next rehearsal is actually Sunday. So
awesome.
Yeah, so that's John Rose is the new chap, and yeah, we can't wait. We can't wait, because now they're in close proximity, we can, you know, start to put in, other than the specific 79 shows for next year, specifically 80. You know, we can just add in more numbers generally, you know, to change our set around. It's difficult. There's 6 of us, and we're all over the country. I mean. Yeah. you can't just pop in for a rehearsal. If like I'm in Tamworth in Staffordshire, and and Johnny and Paul, they're like Redcar, Gisborough way, miles. It's like Game of Thrones traveling to the wall, up there. It's it's going to be easier now for us to be able to at least have cluster rehearsals, with say the bass keys drummer and myself, learning our parts, and then when we have a total rehearsal, it'll be pretty much formed. So it should be good. And
obviously you generally specialize in those early years. Have you ever pondered of doing other eras of Gary's music?
We wouldn't rule it out. I think there's still a fair way to go yet in terms of the 78 to 81 period. The difficult part, I think, is from the dance album, I Assassin and Warriors, and even Berserker, really. There's a lot of that fretless bass, and then female singers.
Yeah.
So then you're adding in, Neil's not a fretless player. Paul can play fretless, and he's got them, but he can't play synths at the same time. So what do we do with that? So probably the only other likely one would be the Fury Tour, because that was a fairly digital album, really, in that sense. It was less funk. It was more crisp and digital sounding. So I think that might have legs at some point. But really, we've got a long way to go with what we're doing. I think you got to hang your hat on something. So I think, we'll make ours the glory years, I think.
Yeah.
For now, until we get bored of it, and then.
Well, it's perfect, really, because obviously Gary's still going strong, and we love him for what he's doing now. But there's a lot of us that still love those early days. So this gives that opportunity for fans to remember that feeling.
Yeah, because also you got to remember. I never saw the tour in principle. All the telly tour or Warriors. As I say, all Wembley. So I didn't see any of that. So. Even I, when I look at the stage set that we're sort of putting on now, think, blimey, this looks really cool. We're really enjoying this. And so I'm sure if we're enjoying it to look at, when it's all going, the smoke and the dry ice and spinning pyramids and the like, that the audience are too. And for those who didn't see Gary Numan back in the day, then, that will give them a live take. You can watch a video cassette, can't you, or listen to a CD. It's not like having it coming through a 20k rig.
Yeah.
It's you're getting the full live experience, in my eyes anyway, exactly musically as it was back in the day.
Yeah.
And as near as I can get my voice to his, I'm glad that I can still do the voice, because obviously as he got older, obviously his voice deepened. So I can change the Gary Numan vocal to fit the year, sort of thing. Yeah. So if you listen to, we did an audio on the Gary Numan tribute band Tubeway Days page of Your Fascination. If you do listen to that, you should, hopefully, if I've done it right, you should notice a slightly deeper vocal delivery to match Your Fascination, as opposed to doing it from when he was 21. Yeah. There is that 4-year gap, and you can tell, as he's matured. It's a slightly warmer vocal than he would have done, a la Telecon or whatever. Yeah. So but that's another thing as well. We'll keep putting out the odd audio release on our page, just to keep ourselves interested in it between shows, but with Anthony leaving, obviously we've had a lot of work. I've been involved trying to get John up and down to Crewe, and because he doesn't drive, so I've been able to he doesn't live that far from me, so a lot of work involved, and Paul has obviously been sending over files for John to work with, etc. So it's all coming together nicely, I think. All I got to do is keep myself under 14 stone. We'll laugh it.
Well, I was going to say, how do you find the outfits as well? Because that's another. The costume changes are great to see as well.
Yeah. I mean, the blue one was a mistake. I had that ordered, made in India, and I swear they made everything about 2 inches tighter than it should have been. So on the DVD, I didn't mention that, but I can't breathe. So I love. Yeah, there's more to come on that actually. I mean, my friend Anthony Holmes, he's been a great help. Really, we did when we first got together. This was in lockdown. We did 3 promotional videos. That again are all on the page. We did Cars, Our Friends Electric, and We Are Glass, and had it filmed in studios in Birmingham. And Anthony, you name the colour jumpsuit, he's got it. So he bought those with him. It was great, and he. Because Paul couldn't make it because of the COVID thing, so Paul couldn't come down to play since. So we had a standing Chris Payne, which was Anthony himself, and I stuck a Shawaddy Waddy wig on him, and you wouldn't believe how much he looked like Chris Payne. He really did look like Chris Payne in his wig because it's slightly mulleted, and anyway, so yeah, he was great. Helped us out a lot, but he's been tremendous, Anthony, in sourcing. When I first started the shows, I had just a normal sort of black blazer. It was really just a Marks and Spencer's rubbish, It wasn't because I hadn't thought about doing anything like that for years. And Anthony found this. It was a women's leather, double-breasted, cropped box jacket, and it was perfectly what Gary Numan wore on the 80 tour in the US.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe he'd found it, ordered it, and it's as if I'd gone to a tailor's and had it made. And it was 45 quid. I couldn't believe it. I nearly fell over. Because I've been searching for years. If I said to him, I'm really struggling to find the Holy Grail, Anthony, you have a look, will you? Half an hour, he'd find it. He's just one of them people. He can just find these things. But brilliant. So, yeah, I like the Wembley coat thing, but there'll be more of that. I'll be having more stuff as we go. I haven't told the wife yet, but have to go with it.
What are the best songs to sing live in general? Because I remember you joking on stage when you're doing Cars, you kind of have nothing to do after a while. You just sort of stand there. So are there some songs you prefer than others?
I'm thinking about getting Sudoku out next when that's or take a break. I think I love singing. Actually, we haven't done it live yet. But I do love I Sing Rain. I Sing Rain seems to turn off half the fans. I just don't like it, but I absolutely love that song. So never say never. I'll probably bully Paul into letting me do it. Anyway, but of the set that we do, I love Remind Me to Smile. And probably We Are Glass as well. I love that. As a finishing song for the show, it's perfect, really. I suppose it changes. I like the sort of slightly rock start for Listen to the Sirens. I like that. And I like testing myself with My Shadow in Vain and Are You Real? Because they are quite squeaky. They are pretty up there, So I'm pleased if I get through Are You Real? All right. And they're more of a challenge. But I think Remind Me to Smile, what a fantastic chorus that is. It really is. It's a really corking number, that one, I'd have to say. And but then on the other end of the scale, probably I do love doing the Please Push No More.
Lovely.
With Paul. That's just me and Paul, and that's pretty, I enjoy that. Yeah.
Well, just looking back to your Stars in the Rise experience, what was that whole day like? I still feel like when you got beaten by Gary Barlow, just remember thinking because he didn't look or sound like him. You were robbed.
No. Well, the thing is, on that show, it's not about what you look like. It's purely about the voice. That's what they take you on as. So well, he did look nothing like him, but he got a nice voice. I thought a really nice voice, but not particularly Gary Barlow. I didn't think. But that's it. It's they get a load of coach loads of old women from on a night out, give them a voting box, and they're going to go for nice Gary Barlow, aren't they? So you can't blame them really. rather than somebody strange with far too much eyeliner in a jumpsuit, thinking, what the hell is this? So no, but it's about 6 months. After you've auditioned and everything, 6 months of like choreography, where you're going to move, stand, for the camera angles and all of that. So you, and then obviously costume fittings. The man who made the jumpsuit did all the costumes for Cats in the West End, so they get the best people in to do it. And so I had to sort of get inside a cotton jumpsuit that they tacked around me, and then I had to, pinned it all together, and then I had to take that off gently, and then left it with them. And then the next time you see it, it's a full leather jumpsuit with all the zips and everything else hanging up in your dressing room for you. It was. The only thing wrong with it was the collar was too wide. That was the only thing they got wrong. I asked them if I could turn it in just to half the width. They said no.
Yeah.
So now I just turn it in.
Nice. And what was that? What was that feeling like though when he's saying tonight? It was. It was a bit surreal, really. I didn't think that show would ever have Gary Numan on. I never thought that would happen, because he was so even then, really, I think it just started to sort of climb back, really. Yeah. 97 that was filmed. So he was, I think he'd Praying to the Aliens, the autobiography had come out. So I mentioned that on the show. So, but it was just that, he was just turning the corner again, back to, the sort of success he's having now, which is fantastic to see, really. And you say that, and then so you record that bit. Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be Gary Numan. You walk off into the smoke. You can't see anything, and then it's off into the dressing rooms where they chop all your hair off, shave my hairline off. Got an inch off the front of my hairline. And then they chop, because they make you grow your hair long, and then they literally hack it off, like, comb it, spray, good to go, and so it was really just a fantastic adventure. That was really good. I loved it. It was at the time I thought, if I do nothing else, it's just a great little hello to the world sort of thing. But yeah, it's. I would have that's my only regret, really, with Tubeway Days, is that I didn't meet them, at least 10, 15 years ago, even, because it was, but there wasn't the social media then. I had a few people write in just to say how much they enjoyed the Stars in Their Eyes thing, but because they had to write to ITV, who could then forward that to me, that was the only communication you'd have. So there was no real Facebook or any of that, not as I remember in 97 anyway. I think it was MySpace might have been out by then, I'm not sure. But yeah, it was, so I never joined any bands like that. It was only the party one, locally to me, but yeah, so that's why it's so good now to be in Tubeway Days, because you're looking at rows and rows of happy people that are enjoying what you're doing, some tickets are dearer than others, depending on the venue, but we've not yet had one complaint about how much tickets are, even in London, where I know they're like £25 on a ticket, including the fee, which isn't cheap, times are hard and the like, but selling great numbers of people don't seem to care. But then again, I suppose, you watch how many acts now are like hundreds of pounds for a ticket. So I've worked it out. We only need to be 1/25th as good as Beyonce, and definitely. Well, have you ever met Gary? Has that ever come up? How was that?
I spoke to him on the radio, Radio WM, and that was when he'd signed with IRS, and I sort of asked him, what are we going to do about radio play and etc. And that was that. But then I met him at a record signing at Tama Records in Birmingham for the Random album. And again, I knew things had changed at that point because I thought, things had got, he wasn't quite playing the dog and duck, but it had got nearly, So when I went there, queuing all the way down the street, right, in Birmingham, I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it, So that was really encouraging as a fan because I've been to gigs where, small venues were half full, thinking, crikey, we've gone from Wembley to half full at the Leicester Poly, or the Leicester de Montfort Hall, even in 87, it was half full. And I was thinking, blimey, that was a depressing evening. And I think fans like to feel part of a big audience, don't they? They don't want to see the place half empty, But I did say I went to the random signing and he was great, but I would have been like 27, 28. Yeah, 28. And within a few feet of seeing him, I did get a bit choked up thinking, what the hell am I going to say? I'd had the full 1 hour, 1.5 hours queuing to sort of, think of what to say and then had a blackout. Anyway, I can't even remember what I said particularly, but he was, very, very chatty and jolly, and Gemma was there, and he comes across really well. And I think, especially now he's older, he seems he can have a really good laugh and a joke with most people now. He's not, he's learned how to cope with his Asperger's better, I suppose, hasn't he?
Yeah. And it's obviously amazing for us fans to see him return to Wembley and have that, that career arc. No, I can't think of any other artist who's had his kind of trajectory. It's amazing.
It's a real low to get to, and then to come back to, that. I mean, it was amazing, really. And, and when times were tougher, for him, I was thinking, God, he'll never get back to that kind of level ever again. And it did take a long time. So he's doing very well, and I hope his next album. I'd just like to see something a bit faster, just one track. Just one track that's sort of 140 beats per minute. Just something
a bit more like "Are You Real?" Just to say,
or even "We Are Glass." We Are Glass. Something like Motors, really Motors. I enjoy that now and again because his voice suits it. I think was it Love and Napalm? I really like that. That's a proper. It's a good old banger, and I do miss those. Sometimes I find them a little bit too atmospheric and a bit ploddy, or at least there's not a lot of difference in the tempo of them all anyway, So I'd like to see that now and again.
Nice. Well, just finally then, I just wanted to know, what can we, I know you kind of alluded to it earlier and you don't want to give away too much, but what can we expect next from you and the band, and where and when can they catch you next?
Yeah, well, none of the venues have been confirmed yet for next year. So, I mean, one person I haven't mentioned in all of this is Steve Gard, and Steve has been invaluable, really, because when I joined Tubeway Days, I'd done a Bowie tribute 7-piece band for a couple of years. And 7-piece band, it nearly killed me because I was the bank, I was doing everything. I was doing everything. And selling tickets, it seemingly felt like it was all down to me. So it nearly killed me. So I thought, right, join this Gary Numan band. I'm sure it's going to be good. I'm going to enjoy this, but it's not going to be enjoyable if I make those same mistakes and just try and do everything. So Steve has been invaluable, really, in getting us into venues. It isn't an easy sell, even now, to get Gary Numan tribute, especially into theatres. Some theatres don't want tributes at all. Others just see no commercial value in a Gary Numan tribute. Funnily enough, when those same agents for these theatres have seen us doing well, then they're on the phone again, aren't they?
Funny that.
But Steve Gard has been fab, because I know it takes hours on the phone, hours and hours of rejection and going back and chasing on emails, and I haven't got the time. I work full time, so he's been great. So Steve has a number of venues. We will look to, with only a couple of exceptions, I think, be going into mainly theatres, if nothing else really, to be able to put our full stage set up. One of the disappointments for this year has been that our stage set has outgrown Steve's bookings. so like he booked us, and then we've said, oh, by the way, we've got this now and this now, and it's going to be big. So next year we're going for theatres that will house what we've got, and what we've got, it will definitely be growing next year as well. So all I can say is it's going to be really exciting for us to be on stage with it. It's going to be cool. Yeah.
Right. Well, as I say, I thought you guys were brilliant, and I think any Numan fan listening to this who hasn't seen you, definitely it's a brilliant experience, and the closest you're going to get to her. So thanks so much for your time, Chris, and huge good luck with the next shows whenever they do come, and look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tom.
Awesome. Cheers for that.
All right, bye.
Electric Friends, a Gary Numan podcast celebrating the tracks by a musical pioneer.